Woo! All right. Hello, all. Welcome to Driven by Youth with Jada Tholey. Today I'm joined by, introduce yourself, sir.
Invest for Trev. What's going on, guys? My name is Trever Ahing. Nice to be here, Jada. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for joining me. It was fantastic to meet you guys back in, I think, May in Temecula, but even better this time in Vegas for WealthCon.
Holy camole. Yeah, that was over at Pace's meetup. And then, yeah, over at the All Star. I thought I met you for the first time at an All Star event, but no, it was Temecula. And then it was also that meetup.
Yeah, I felt a little bad because I totally did not remember who Hector was. And he saw me, he's like, Jada! Ah!
Hey!
Ah!
Yeah, I get it. I know. I get it.
But once you guys said, "Oh yeah, from Temecula," I was like, "Oh okay, yeah, totally remember." He was so quiet.
I know. So many faces. Networking is crucial. So you meet so many strangers. That's why photos are so important. But yeah, no, you're the Airbnb girl that we met. We're like, she does a bunch of Airbnb stuff.
I'm the Airbnb girl. Oh my gosh, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Haha. So yeah, thank you for joining me. I would love it if you kind of told everybody or me who's watching, who is Trevor? What do you do?
Ooh, let's go deep dive. No, so I am an 8-year Marine veteran. I founded the company called Buyer Beater. We do creative solutions for sellers. We focus mainly in the novation space. So you usually see us a lot of creative real estate meetups, a lot of fix and flip wholesale stuff to try to get people outside of that box that they're in to start focus on creative solutions, creative thinking, and know that there's other ways besides cornering a seller into some minute way and small price that unfortunately just isn't probably the best bet for them right now, especially with our economy. So a lot of people come with us. They say, hey, this might be a phenomenal novation play, which we can dive into what novations are. We take that and I run the entire back end of novations. I fund all the renovations behind it. I pay for all the realtor fees and closing costs associated. And then I attach anybody who gives us a deal to the equity that we create on the back end. Everybody walks away happy.
Oh, okay. So yeah, let's go into like what is innovation? What does that mean?
Good question. So innovation just means a replacement of contract. Okay. So it's kind of like an assignment piece, except we're coming in there and providing value through what we call our marketing, maintenance, and management fee or service. We're mainly a servicing company. And I'll break the, kind of break down the algorithm a bit. A lot of wholesalers work directly with us in our community. Wholesale, I'm guessing, right? So I'm going to use a prime example. A property is worth $500,000 fully renovated. Like if it's fully renovated, it's worth 500K, but it needs 50 grand worth of work. Looking at that wholesale method, you're able to have to chop that seller down to about $280,000, but you can close quickly. You can close in 30 days. And most sellers go, kick rocks. That is way too low. 280 is not my cup of tea. I need at least $350,000, right? That is a great innovation. That's a dead wholesale deal. But if you are able to offer the seller $70,000 more, we can do that through the understanding of saying, hey, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, let's give you a guaranteed $350,000. We're going to come in there and we're going to fully renovate your home on behalf of you. So that way, when we come in, any appreciation we create through our renovation, we're going to fund the entire $50,000. We're going to put it on market for a little bit more. Once it sells, we're going to be responsible for all your realtor fees and your closing costs. So whatever return we get on our investment, we get to keep, but you get to be worked in your equity through our money. And the sellers love it because they go, okay, I get a fully renovated home. I get my exact price, and I get to see this property kind of transform to where I always knew it could be. And we don't get to take advantage of them in any situation. Now, sellers need to be able to kind of have more patience with us, right? We don't close quickly. It's going to be about 3, 4, 5 months. But in doing so, we can pay their mortgage. We can give them a pre-release of funds. We can just sprinkle a little bit of creative, you know what I mean? And have some fun with it. So we have roughly 15 to 19 deals a month doing that. We get about 10 submissions a day. We're a little bit picky, but when the numbers make sense, people just send them on over and the sellers always walk away happy. So that's what we do.
So by submissions, do you mean that sellers are coming to you, or is it wholesalers with their dead leads coming to you with these?
Good question. Both. So we have our buyerbeater.com website. A lot of sellers go in because we do our credibility package, right? So they come in, they say, I want to see these deals. We send them deals. We do it nationwide. We have deals right now in New York, Texas, Florida, Buffalo, a lot of California, Nevada, kind of wherever people focus their acquisitions in. Because I don't target deals. I do zero ad spend. I just do the whole disposition. So they bring us the deals because it's a nuanced way of real estate. So
Mhm.
then we take it to the finish line. So if they find it, we fund it and we manage it, right? So sellers come to us, repeat customers a bit. They'll say, hey, now my cousin in Texas wants his new roof and we want to sell it, yada, yada. But mainly I do a private community. You would join the private community. It's only $50 a month, but you have access to all of our funding. You have access to the educational training, private community. We do a lot of short-term rental stuff, kind of what you do. We do a lot of sub-2 seller carry, any creative way to start looking at, kind of the threshold of what real estate can do outside of just the traditional models. So most people do that. They do a deal submission form, and my team takes it. So that's kind of where we get most of our gold.
So how did you even learn about this? I mean, you said, um, an 8-year veteran. How did were you in real estate beforehand? Was your family in real estate or?
No, that's a really good question. So I thought I was gonna do 30 years in the service. I loved it. I deployed a bunch. I traveled a bunch. And when I got married, my wife was always like, she was a processor. She was a loan processor, and she saw how much real estate agents made. I never dabbled in real estate, right? I was just like, forefront marching. I was like, this is what I'm gonna do, And then she was like, I want to go to a realtor meetup. Like, I want to do this thing. It's like $60 and I'm going to pay for it. Or can you pay for it? I'm going to go. And I said, babe, go do it. Follow your dreams. So the day of, my wife's an introvert. So I was like, this is crazy that you're doing this, It's insane. And the day of, she goes, I'm not going. This is scary. I'm not going to do it. Absolutely not. And I'm like, I spent $60 on this thing. I'm going to go because I'm not going to waste $60. So I went to this event, started learning about, yeah, more creative plays. They reference pace a bunch and everything, kind of how agents can focusing on market plays where you can take, more selling solution oriented plays where it's like sub-2 seller carry stuff if the property doesn't sell. And I came back home and I'm like, babe, we're gonna be millionaires. Like, the military is amazing. We're gonna do real estate. And then I just started kind of diving into it. And I always say to my team too, I always say imperfect action is better than perfect non-action. So as I learned about it, I just started diving a little bit further. I started house hacking. I actually thought I invented house hacking. I would start renting out. I bought a home with the VA loan, started renting out my rooms to a bunch of buddies. My wife at first was like, what are you doing? Because, we're renting all this stuff out. And then she started seeing the income come in, and I'm like, I'm a genius. And I started reading some books, and I'm like, oh, this is totally normal. Like, people do this all the time. And then I started like moving into the space very gradually. And then I ended up finding just the right community, and I started just learning about it.
Man, I love it. Yeah, imperfect action, just going and doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you have to. And that's kind of what I was telling everybody too. Like, everybody at the meetup, you do the same thing, right? With the podcast, everything. I love the initiative. People who don't, and they just go to these events and they just listen to the speakers, but they're afraid to shake hands and talk to people. You're not getting your money's worth. You know what I mean? So I always tell people, if you stumble on your words, you're not even in real estate. Just talk to people about what they do and find that passion a bit. And you're going to be able to get in the right room. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's huge.
Yeah, I have somebody, or I know somebody who just he was actually at that Temecula meetup. His name's Justin Brigado. He's just everywhere. He is.
Justin's in my community.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love Justin.
Yeah, he's just in all the rooms, all of them, and he's in real
Mhm.
estate. So it's like, yeah, thank God. But man, oh man, just being everywhere, so everybody knows you. I feel like that's a pretty good thing to do.
I mean, you need to, right? Like, you need brand awareness is huge, right? Ryan and Brian do it really well. Pace is like the king of it. So when it comes down to just putting yourself in the right rooms with the right people, I think ethically too. And that's
Mhm.
what thing about real estate too is like, I want to be very family oriented. I want a good foundation. Coming from the military, my ethics are really high. And so unfortunately, it could be a very dog eat dog industry. So I just want to be able to teach it like how to do what you have to do, but do it in a way where you can be very solution oriented by selling oriented. You know what I mean? So that's why the creative space speaks to me. I started with wholesale, made a bunch of money doing wholesale, and then I just never got residual business. And it was always like a hamster wheel. And then I just started like slowly transitioning into this, and it just became like, it just took off.
Yeah, actually, that's why I ended up joining Sub 2. So before, and I've spoken about this in the last episode, so I'll just quickly go through it. When I was looking at how to start in real estate, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, and then I ended up stumbling upon Pace. And he was like, I buy things without my own money, so that was already intriguing. And then sometimes zero down, so again, fascinating. But the thing that hooked me and why I actually joined was because he had said another thing that we do is we try to help people get out of foreclosure. And I was like, all right, I'm sold. I was
Yep.
Because before that I was thinking, okay, well, the best way or the cheapest way is to buy houses at auction and stuff. But then I was like, oh, well,
Yeah,
those are families' homes. So as
I
soon as he said
know.
that, solution based, I'm in.
So let me tell you about some pre-foreclosure stuff because we have about three of those. There was a property in Maybank that gets listed on the 17th of this month. Um, Let me verify that. Yes, 17th this month. And it's in Maybank, Texas, right? And it's a property. It was in pre-foreclosure. And they had $66,000 of back taxes and mortgage forbearance that they could not pay. They're about to go in bankruptcy. A wholesaler reached out, and the thing is, nobody wanted to touch this with a 10-foot pole. It was kind of like, no, wholesale it, let them walk away with nothing because yada yada. There's so many liability. Then they reached out with like, is this a good novation? Property's worth about $580,000, right? It
Mhm.
needs about it needed about $60,000 worth of work. So what we ended up doing was we reinstated the mortgage at $66,000. We came in, we did a pre-release to the seller for $20,000, so that way they can take some money, pay some bills that they have, and not come behind again. We renovated the home for 60 grand. We're all in about 120. We're
Yep.
locked in at 404, which means that 120 is going to be able to come in there and make us about $95,000 after that's all said and done and what we have. So just by doing that, the sellers are ecstatic. They're so happy. All they want to do is find us more properties. They have other land that they want us to build on, and just because they didn't feel like they got taken advantage of. And that's why I like the residual business. It's like, oh my gosh, from this, we actually bought 3 lots from the father. We're building on them in Texas. And it's like just coming in there and being like, how can I help you? Which is what Pace always does, right? You come in and you just find these situations because now coming in there, they were getting offers at like 290. We gave them like a little over 100 grand more, and then provided that service that we do in innovation. And they get to walk the home. They get to feel like they're a part of it. You know what I mean? It's so cool. Like my project manager was sending the wife photos of our backsplash. It was like, do you like this one or this one? They're like, oh my God, I love this one. So they get to feel like they're renovating it with us because we know what's going to sell. You know what I mean? So it's been just so much fun. We do those all the time. So you're right. Foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, getting people out of pickles is just like our jam.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're making me want to go out and find. That's not my model at all. I
Novation. Novation.
didn't. That's so funny. So other than like, I guess the family oriented or that kind of mindset that you have now that you feel like you kind of got from being in the military, do you find that you get anything else from, or you kind of translate it into this space now from that?
From the service?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think the hierarchy and accountability, right? So in the Marine Corps, you do what's called JJ did tie buckle, right? It's
Okay.
judgment, justice, decisiveness, integrity, dependability, tact, initiative, endurance, bearing, and selfishness, courage, knowledge, loyalty, enthusiasm. All of those are leadership traits that they say we should have. It's 14. Now,
Mm.
to tie that in, I'm always looking at how to do it. And a lot of my people that work here are prior service with me. And so in doing so, they kind of have that mentality. And we like to be a part of the elite. Like we are coming in here. And so in doing so, accountability is crucial with us. We want to be able to come in there and just understand hierarchy, understand your role. Delegation's big. So, I wouldn't say that we micromanage at all, but I would say if you don't do something correctly, that somebody is going to make sure that it's, going to get done. And so always knowing that you're always held to a higher standard in the business comes from, I think, my time in the service. And everybody loves it. It's not like, oh my God, it's just more like, hey, here's the reason why, right? I don't need you to know what to do or how to do it. I want you to know why we're doing it. And so kind of allowing them to digest that and process it. I always tell my acquisitions, you know what to say, but why are you saying it? Tell me why. Tell me why this is helpful, because I need you to tell me why, because you're selling a product that is going to inevitably help a seller. It's their biggest personal sell ever, like whenever you break down real estate, we always forget that this is like the biggest financial thing that most sellers will ever deal. They don't deal with multiple properties a month. This is a home that they bought 30 years ago. they're afraid to park money somewhere else and they don't want to get taken advantage of. So you need to be able to tell them why we're the best fit for them. And so I think all that comes from the service. I think the service was very well trained. And then I make us all run 10 miles. I'm just kidding. No, I don't do that. We actually do work out in the morning now, which is good. No more dad bods amongst the office. So that's nice.
Nice.
We're trying. We're getting there.
I love it. When I was in high school, I think my dad was starting to work out again, and he had posted a picture where I think he's probably wearing a shirt, but he looked fit, and he had put like dad bod, and it was like, trying to redefine the dad bod. But oh my God, my friends just, every time they would see him, they just say dad bod, dad bod.
Dad bod. I'm going to turn my AC on. Give me 1 second.
Go ahead.
But yeah. Boom. Done. Yeah, I would say the service came in and really prepped me because I wanted to do 30 years. I loved it. I really, really liked it. It just, we had some personal stuff too. We ended up, having some loss as well. And so when it came into it, I'm like, you know what's something I can do that I still feel passionate about? And then transitioning into real estate, it just gave me that edge.
Man, that's awesome. So I know that you were saying that your wife was she was the person that tried to start this initially. And then you just kind of ran with it. Has she been with you the whole time? Like, does she work in the business as well, or does she kind of do her own thing, or does she do a lot of like back end stuff? Like, how's your guys's
dynamic?
Yeah, dynamic.
Yeah. So she helps train our TCs. She's like the best transaction coordinator I've ever met. Right. And so now we have a 5-month-old, almost 6 months. It's crazy. So she's a stay-at-home mom now, which we absolutely love. But I would say coming into it, yeah, she wants to get her NMLS. She wants to become a loan officer. We want to do loans ourselves, whether it's hard money, DCSR, all that fun stuff. And so she's still very, curious and insightful with like what our business is. But honestly, she just provides really good emotional reassurance. Like that is like crucial. Everyone always gives me credit. I'm like, dude, I would be legit nothing without my wife, 100%. So especially from the service to now, it was just like when things are down, she's like, you're going to do it. Like, it's going to be great. What do you want to do? Sleep under an overpass? What do we got to do? Let's go. You know what I mean? And then when things are great, she's like, don't get a big head. There's ups and downs. Come over here. And so it's nice to kind of have that life coach at home where it's just always like, keep your eye on the prize, grow a big family. I don't know about Jerry Norton size, but like, probably up there. And I want 5. I want a bunch of kids. But yeah, so we're dabbling with the fact. I mean, she's kind of itching a bit to come back to work, have like a sense of identity. But then, we'll see. We're growing out to about 3 other TCs that we have right now, all dealing with about 10 to 15 files at once. And she's just the bomb. So I mean, if she wants to, we can. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
I'd love to meet her. Have her on. Oh my God.
Yeah, you guys will be best friends. She is awesome.
I can't wait. And if you don't mind me kind of going into that as well, I would love to understand how relationships work. How is it being married? How is it working together? And then kind of her having to go on maternity leave, but still kind of helping out. How is that whole I guess dynamic again, mostly because I'm early 20s and I don't know how it is to be married or how to be any of that. Like how would I find the right person? Should I try to grow my business now and then meet somebody then? Or is it okay to meet somebody now and then us try to grow the business together? Do they have to be in the business with me? A lot of questions.
Those are all really good questions. Like I said, stumbled my way in, and I think I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, you know what I mean? And so in doing so, my wife always knew what she was going to get herself into because I wasn't really a traditional 9-to-5 guy. And that's kind of why the service was great. I'd go to the fields for a couple of weeks. I'd come back. I had to deploy. There was always something to do. Mm-hmm. But I met my wife for the first time. Legit, this is the craziest story ever. They should make a movie out of this, Hallmark, whatever. I'm calling you out. So when I was stationed over in Africa, we were attached to Marine Security Guard forces, and I was in South Africa at the time. She reached out to me on Facebook. She slid in my DMs, and I know we knew of each other always. We had mutual friends. Never met her, and so when she reached out, she said, "I heard you're getting out, yada yada. My friend was talking about you. We should go on a hike or whatever." She said, right? And come to find out, we started talking. We're just Zooming for like 2 months. whenever I have time, and I'm like, you know what, I want to meet you. So she's like, okay. So we've never met. She flew out to Africa to meet me for the first time. Wild. I have a daughter now, and I'm like, you will never do this for a boy. Literally never do this for a boy, especially a Marine. And so when she flew out, she had a 9-hour layover in Turkey, in Istanbul, right after the airport bombing. I mean, we couldn't get a hold of her. Then she ended up coming in here. Luckily, it was great. I took her to safari parks. We traveled to different countries. I mean, it was like as cool as, there's like no way you could beat a first date from there. So she was like hooked, We went ring shopping on the second day I ever met her, which is like as military gets, Jada. It's like legit. And I know, it's insane. And so from there, she stayed for like 10 days. Come to find out, she's known my mom, and I'm the biggest mama's boy ever, for years. My mom has been great friends with her because she was the manager at my mom's favorite clothing store. So they've gone to lunch and stuff. And I'm like, my mom always talked about this woman. Like, you should meet this girl. And I'm like, Mom, you're not going to hook me up. You know what I mean? It was her. So when I FaceTime, it was insane. When I FaceTime my mom, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, was like, Casey? And then my mom was like, Katrina? And I'm like, what the frick is going on? And so they just started talking for like 45 minutes. And then the second time we ever met, I flew back to America to be best man at my best friend's wedding. And then I flew back again. So the third time we ever met, we got married.
Oh my gosh. What?
Yeah, we just straight up eloped. We just courthoused it, got married, and that was 7 years ago. And it's been the strongest relationship ever.
Wow. And wait, okay, so how long did you guys from talking to eloping?
Talking to eloping, it was 6 months. Actually, I apologize, 8 months, but we only saw each other for like the last 4 months, like off and on twice.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
10 out of 10 recommend.
Okay. I know.
Wild. I know. But you just got to do it. And it was just one of those where, the energy clicks, like you talk about. Should you meet somebody in the business? She didn't know she was going to be in real estate. I didn't either. I think finances are obviously really important. I mean, we did the whole checklist thing, like what do we want to do, family size, all that fun stuff. And I already knew kind of what she wanted. My wife's a traditional Filipino woman. She wanted to be more of a stay-at-home mom. She kind of we wanted to fit more traditional roles. Some people don't. I have a best friend whose wife is very extroverted, loves working, and they have a great dynamic too. So you don't have to fit any kind of mold, but we knew what we wanted. And so I wanted to, get the home and do all this, or I wanted to buy the houses. She wanted to make them homes. I wanted to, all that stuff. And so whatever that cliche saying is, you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And then, as we started like learning it together, it just turned into something great. I mean, we had like all the cards stacked against us, maybe, but I just think we just became best friends. I think that time away made us become friends because there was no like crazy physical attraction right away, yada, yada. It was just kind of like, hey, I want to talk to you because I enjoy your company. And then you just talk about so much weird stuff and you just end up developing that bond that's more spiritual and emotional. And then that other stuff came later, you know what I mean? So it's pretty cool.
That sounds cool. Oh my God. So you got married at like my age, like 23.
Yeah, I got married at 23.
Oh!
We didn't tell our parents, though. We didn't tell our parents till we were 25. I know. It's so bad. Like
2 years.
I felt bad. We straight up eloped. And then the only reason why we told our parents, because we courthoused it. And then we like just saved up for like a legit wedding. Like, hey, let's just be smart with our money. I was pretty frugal at the time. Let's just put some aside for our dream wedding. And then their health insurance was like, maybe my wife was 24 and her dad called me and was like, yo, can you just marry my daughter, bro? Because her health insurance is super expensive. And I'm like, surprise, we're married, And so it was a shock, and our families loved it. My mom was just super sad though, because she wanted to be there for and she cried. I'm like, oh my God. So I don't keep anything for my mom ever. I know. But yeah, that's like my story with her. And then as we moved into it, it just became more and more robust and intricate. And I think my real estate career was destined because I had a great supportive role, with me.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Oh my God. That's such a wild story. Yeah, really. I can't believe it just kept getting more crazy the more you would say it. Like, how do you not tell
I
your
know.
family for 2 years? 2 years.
I legit know. Like, we were living together in the military. You don't get money unless you get married. My family didn't know that though, but I think they knew. You know what I mean? It just wasn't, said out loud. And then it just started evolving from there. And then I mean, here's the thing though, the sacrifice is crucial because as we did all this stuff, she was just always very not supportive, but like I'm a visionary, right? Like especially you, we were very like, I wouldn't say head in the clouds, but we know that we don't have a ceiling. So it's just I know I can continue to climb. But it's like, we have to be realistic. We got to check the temperature. What's the altitude? Like, can we, all these things that some people need to do. So I understand my strengths. I understand my weaknesses. And that's where we kind of navigated together. And so, yeah, we went through some crazy, crazy stuff together, especially starting in real estate because
Mhm.
everybody thinks, I'm going to get in this and we are going to just hit the ground running. And the
Take
next thing you know, that ground ain't moving under you at all. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, we weather the storm. I think that's what you have to do. Adversity is huge, especially the first 6 months to a year in real estate.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm getting past that hump. Woo.
Mhm. How long have you been in real estate in the industry?
2 years. 2 years, but I was trying my best. I was doing it all alone, and I don't know why. It was awful.
It's tough. Yeah, it's a lonely road. You got a partner now, though, right?
I have a team. Yeah, I work with a couple, with a few people.
Nice. Meetups. How'd you meet them?
Sub two. So they actually had joined their own team, and they were in
Mhm.
multifamily, and they started multifamily last year. They would stream a lot, and then invite a bunch of people to the streams. And so I had got invited, watched one, and then I was hooked. And then I started just interacting with them so much. They're like, "Do you just want to join in? Like join us?" And I'm like, "All right."
Yeah.
Peace.
Yes. I love that. I've done the whole mentorship thing, right? Like, and that's the thing. My biggest thing is, you know, I don't want to recreate the wheel. So I'll pay to not recreate the wheel. If somebody
Yep.
does something that I like, I'm going to pay you to like consult and do that because that's how you get ahead. Now, whether you have the money or don't have the money, my first investment was $5,000 that I didn't have at the time. I put like half on a credit card, right? And then like half through my buddy, who's actually my partner now. This was years ago. And he was like, yeah, man, like, what is it? And I'm like, it's like creative real estate stuff where it's like wholesale, but not, and he was just like, here you go. You're gonna do it, which is like such a supportive dude. He's our COO now. He's a founder of Buyer Beater. And Robert, it was Robert.
Hey,
Yeah,
Robert.
I know. Shout out to Robert. And I did it. Never asked for the investment back until I was able to give it back. I doubled it. And he was like, what are you doing? Like, how did you just turn $2,500, $2,500? I'm like, dude, it's like working out, And so from there, then you start doing, you paying to go in other rooms, a sub two community, all this stuff. And if you just implement, you're going to get your money back tenfold. You know what I mean? So if you want to do it yourself, and that's the thing, you will, but what you will learn in a year is what you could learn in a month if you're around the right crowd.
Oh,
So my biggest thing is making sure that people understand that your DMs too, my DMs are like, I want to get in, but it just seems expensive or I don't want to pay, or it's just like, then you're in the wrong mindset, in my opinion, because real estate really is, you got to put your money where your mouth is in a sense. And you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, but go to your networking events, buy a couple people like top realtors a drink, go get them lunch. Like those are all things that you could do to build those relationships. It's just a relationship based industry.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm out in East LA, and
Mhm.
I work with a lot of the youth in the community because of my mom's nonprofit. And yeah, lately I've been thinking about how I think I want to try to make some sort of seminars here or something so that people's mindset can start shifting. Because it's so easy to just grow up and kind of being, I like to say the matrix. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's just crazy to see, like when sometimes people are like, oh, you have an Airbnb? And I'm like, oh yeah. And so I start going into like what I do, and they're just like, how do you do it? And they have questions upon questions that it's like, yeah, they're definitely reasonable questions, because they're like, well, what kind of loan did you get? Like, what bank did you go to? And I'm like, I
Yeah.
didn't do either of them. I got people to bring in their money, partner with me.
What? It's just like, dude, mind blown. Same thing. I mean, So in the military, we give a lot back to the service as well, just because financial literacy is like not taught. You know what I mean? So you don't really have the time. The benefits are so good in the military. You have VA loans, you have no mortgage insurance. I mean, you can buy zero down. Like, it is so nice, but you have no idea how to go about it. So you're right. I think coming into it, I did a podcast for a while called Saluting Success, and it was a private podcast for service members. It was kind of going over entrepreneurs in the service, which was really cool. Unfortunately, the business kind of took that over, but I still want to get more into same thing you're doing. I think that's amazing with the youth. It's just because financial literacy is huge. Being taught amongst youth. If you started it when you were 16, 17, 18, literally couldn't imagine. I could not imagine, kind of where you would be, especially in the service. If you're going to do 20, 30 years in the service and everywhere you travel, you could buy a house. I mean, you're setting your entire family up for generations. You know what I mean? So yeah, I agree. I think that's amazing. I think everybody has a higher purpose, and you got to be able to find that higher purpose. That's cool. Your mom has a 501c3.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole other thing that I can go into like a lot. A lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. I 100%. I'm getting into the assisted living space right now with my mother, and it's been so cool. She's been in that industry for 20 years. She just hit me up like a month and a half ago. My mom was like so blue collar, like probably the best executive director, marketing director in the senior industry.
Wow.
I never knew of like a correlation. And she was like, one time we were having a beer like a month and a half ago, and she was like, man, I got like 81 people looking for houses. We just need like a single family house, single story, and I'd be able to pay like $5,000 a bed. You know anybody? I'm like, Mom, like I literally find properties for a living. Are you kidding me? And she was like, oh my God, like, yeah, if you bought a house, like we could totally fill it in like a week. Like you can make like 30 grand a property. I'm like, Mother, how long has this been happening? She's like, I've been doing it for 20 years. That's what she does. She fills other people's homes and then pays their rent and has them like, I'm like, what? And so now we have 3 that we're looking at right now, and 2 that we've greenlit, and 1 under construction. And it's just insane how like connections are right under your nose. We got to ask the right questions. You know what I mean? So that's a whole nonprofit thing too, which she's so passionate about, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, my mom, one of the reasons why I even went into this whole field was because she has the nonprofit I mentioned, but then she has another one that we haven't done much with yet. But that one's called Making It Home. So she's been talking about that one for a few years now. And that one is essentially where she wants to try to get some sort of housing or maybe lots to build tiny homes and such for the youth that work with us. Because we work with a lot of people who are coming from the foster care system, a lot of people who have a lot of potential, and their families just don't see it, and they just aren't in the right mind space to see it. Because we've had, for instance, like there was a 15-year-old that worked with us that was better than the 24-year-olds that would work with us. And it was just in like, we have like a little retail shop, and she was like the best worker ever. And it was insane that she was like 9 years younger and like she was the top employee that we had.
I love
And
that. Wow.
and her mom would come in and talk to my mom and just kind of be like, oh, well, you don't really know the real her, and she's kind of like lazy, and she would just bring her down. And it was insane to watch, because she like, yeah, not only was she like a fantastic worker, but she always took initiative. She was very innovative. She still comes by sometimes, but she's a senior now, and she takes AP classes. So it's like, okay, well, there you go. That also shows what kind of person she is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the Making It Home, we want to try to have places for these people, if they're emancipated or once they turn 18 to go. So that's something that I've been trying to look into as I've been in this space as well. So I would love to talk to your mom.
Oh my gosh, please. Yeah, I have a duplex that's in San Bernardino, and it is an Airbnb booking. Hey. And it was for sober living, and that's how I started getting into the nonprofit space. And that's when I started kind of asking the questions to my mom. Ours was more like rehab focused, right? And it became a little bit more youth focused. I sublet to a nonprofit in the area, and now I'm going to sell that property. But yeah, I mean, it just felt so good, right? Like these homes, when it starts kind of moving into that, you just feel like you have that purpose. And I really, really dig it. So I'd love to connect with you a little bit more about that.
Yes. Oh, awesome. I'm going to make my mom, we're going to visit Temecula sometime. She needs a break.
Oh my gosh, come out. You would love it. Have you been to Temecula?
Um,
Oh, wait.
only that one's
Yeah, but have you like hung out in Temecula?
no.
You need to come. It's the best
Never.
place ever.
I think I've gone like once before, but I was like 10 and tired and it was a long drive. But I mean, just going to the ranch, like, oh my God, the hills, they're all green. And then at least
Yeah.
just on that ranch, everything.
I can
So,
literally see, yeah, we're just covered in hills. And it's beautiful. It is seriously gorgeous. It's a very patriotic community. You have Old Town is so much fun. Like it just filled with a lot of spunk and like old like history, you know. So I'm a huge fan of it. I am
you
pro Temecula.
brought to my I love that. Okay, another question that I wanted to ask since I totally forgot that you had a daughter. So, question going into that, do you plan to try to rich dad, poor dad teach her about entrepreneurialism or real estate as she grows up? Or do you feel like, because sometimes I meet people who are pretty big in the industry and I'm like, well, are your children into this? And they're like, nah, they're going the more traditional route. And what would you do? What do
That
you
is so, I literally have never thought about that. That is a very, very good question. I I would say, yeah. Like I think it's gonna be we're probably gonna homeschool, right? And we're probably gonna, at least for a little bit, I think that's a great space to kind of come in there and kind of be able to understand what she's good at. But there was somebody who spoke and it was great. I forgot who it was, but they discussed how allowances when they came out, it was always like you got a certain allowance a month, but you always had to save a certain amount guaranteed. A certain amount always had to go to charity, right? And then you are left with it. Yeah, and that comes in a separate account. So every time that you get it, they had a 6-year-old daughter, and it was only like a $10 a month allowance, right? Something crazy. But they started seeing the pattern where she would go to a store and be like, "Oh man, that candy bar would be great." She's like, "But I already put my money in the charity. I only have $1." So it's like when you spend it, it started teaching really cool financial habits, like for monetary incentives and what to do and how to save. And I always wanted to implement that. I don't know if like real estate, I'd push it. We have some property, we have everything set up in a trust, all that fun stuff. So I think if she wants to delve into it, we'll definitely sell a home, and maybe she could travel after college or something. But I hope so, right? She should just be a boss and run my company. Like that would be cool. But if she wants to just be, whatever she wants to be, I think that's what's cool about wealth though, right? Like we're nowhere near where I know we're gonna be, right? Or where we want to be. But knowing that we can provide an opportunity for her to be like, I kind of want to do this, daddy. I'm gonna be like, do it, figure it out. Cause I think that's gonna be pretty sick to see. But I like the idea of the money thing. When I heard that, I was like, that is so cool. Because that's at a young age. I think that's really cool. And no more Amazon packages. My wife, I come home and there's a new Amazon package every day. And my wife is telling me now, my daughter's almost 6 months, and she's like, Kaya needed it. Kaya wanted it. She giggled at the photo. I'm like, you're a problem. You are a problem.
Oh my God, that's so funny. And yeah, I've seen stuff like that where it just anytime I see, oh, you can do this, like teach your child this or homeschool tips, it makes me want to have a baby, which is awful. Like, I didn't.
Baby fever is wild. I'll tell you that right now. Once you get one, you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then you see, you're like, I want 20, like now. I want them all. It's just, they're the cutest thing. I'm so glad I got a girl. Now I want a boy. I just want a healthy baby. All that like comical, dad stuff or parent stuff that you always see. It's just like, I don't know, when you have a baby, it just like gets imprinted on you and you're just like, oh, I get it. I get it.
That's so funny. And another question that I have that's kind of in line with this, but not really kind of. So how did you, speaking of partners as well, I was trying to say, how did you meet all of your partners? Because I met the whole team and it was just a bunch of you. And so I know
Yeah.
that you were friends with Robert, but how did you meet, everybody else?
So when it came into it, Robert was in the commercial real estate space. Met him through a mutual friend that we had, who also founded the company. And well, he was one of my best friends. So Nick Harmon, one of my best friends, he came in and he always believed in what we had. He was very commercials, oriented, massive success in the commercial space. When I started getting into real estate, he was like, no, you should just join my team in Sacramento. We're going to kill it. But the licensing wasn't really like my thing. I got my real estate license. I was successful my first year. I was getting in front of a lot of, and I was selling a lot of properties because of my acquisitions, but it just wasn't like, didn't really like hit the heart. I was like, I want to do something else. And so when I pulled away and started doing this, that's when I found success and I started doing it. And after about a year and a half of me privately doing it, there was intrigue. And so they were like, you know what? I think this could be really big. Let's just drop everything and do this with you. So I just kind of ran it, right? I own the majority. They came in, they bought into the business. And so from there, it's just kind of been great. Now, everybody else that's trickled in, it's been an absolute blessing. Like I've gotten, and the stars have to align as well. It's like the harder you work, the luckier you get for sure. But you by chance find just rock stars, right?
Mhm.
So our agent outreach coordinator, Hector, he's been in the industry for 20 years. My first really big successful year in real estate, I went to this gym. It was an expensive gym, and I was like, I'm gonna find all my clients here, and I'm gonna be a killer. But Hector, when I walked in, he ran the gym like he was a realtor, very successful realtor, and he was like, "This is my turf, bro." And I'm like, "Damn it!" I was like, "Dang it!" But I started working out, man, made really good friends with his wife and him. And he just was super intrigued by the creative space. I was so intrigued by how well he was selling homes on market. We just started connecting. He's a little bit older, so he's very wise. He has a lot of realism to him, and he just says it how it is and how the market should be. And so he fit that role of like putting novations on market, what's going to sell, what makes property sell, and it just took off. So he just cemented himself in that position as an equity partner. He also came into the business. Peter, my project manager, did you meet Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Peter, I met at All Stars. I met at my very first wealthy investor WealthCon, and I accidentally took his beer. Like I was at the bar. He was there. Never met him. Grabbed it, started drinking. He was like, "That was my beer, bro." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. Let me buy you another beer." He was like, "What the hell?" And he's just joking. He was like, "Ah, you're good, man. What do you do?" I was like, "What do you do?" And he was like, "I run 22 Airbnbs." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I do a bunch of creative stuff." And he was like, "Oh, dude, creative is so cool." I'm like, "Dude, I have 2 homes that I don't want to sell. I want an Airbnb." So from that WealthCon, a week later, he made I furnished both those homes. He put them both live. And now we have been able to make a bunch of money together. He manages the Airbnbs. And then he has a background in construction. So he's our project manager. And so he manages all the projects that we have. And it just fits seamlessly as also an equity partner in the business. And it was just like perfect. We pay a bunch of money for All Stars. You come in, made that back in the first month from an insurance quote on one of my Airbnbs. And I'm like, this is so cool, And I always say, and you're gonna hate this, I'm always like, whenever somebody tells me, because I don't run my Airbnbs, his company does,
Yeah.
and I pay him well doing that. But everyone's always asking me like, oh, you do Airbnb, how easy is it? I'm like, dude, it's like so easy because I don't do anything. And
Oh.
Peter's like, you need to be quiet because it is not easy. You know what I mean? And so it's funny because I just get the good end of it because I had somebody so experienced like you who fits the role just so seamlessly. And so I never had like adversity with short terms. I'm like, oh, I should get a bunch. And he's like, dude, calm down. We'll figure it out. Yada, yada. So it's so funny. And then Daniel, my finance manager, I believe, yeah, you met Daniel. He got his master's in economics and he was in Sac State. Some of our great friends, he was getting recruited by a job. He flew down here for a baby shower, I think. And then we just went to the bar together talking. He was like, you should do this, this, and this. Maybe you should do this and this. And I was like, you want a job? I'll match whatever you're doing. He was like, yeah. And then just hit the ground running with that. I mean, it was perfect. I was literally like, it was the best. And then our TC and assistant Macy, I served with her. She's a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps. And she has great administrative expertise. She came in and she just like hit the ground running as well. And then Paige, my acquisitions manager, just a godsend. Like literally, she lives in Los Angeles. She lives in Burbank. And my wife's best friend was friends with her. I don't know if I'm like super deep diving, but yeah, you asked about this one. Sorry. Okay. And Paige was a realtor, and she was like, she loved what I was doing. And then we were at a opening of a nice restaurant, and it was like a family and friends thing. So we all had some drinks, and it was like a little private event. And I told her what I do, and she was like, "Oh my god! So is the pitch like this? Like you just tell the sellers yada yada yada?" I'm like, "I'm in love with you. Do this for me. This is great. You're so good at it." And she was like, "Okay." First week, 11 contracts. I'm like,
Oh,
Paige, I know. She just slayed it, and now she just runs it. Like, that's just what she does. She's like the Novation queen, and she runs the entire acquisitions, the entire lead department, and it just fit. Like, it just legit fit. I mean, there's of course tweaks. You have to, and then you have to separate. The good thing about everybody is they can separate personal and professional. That is huge, right? Hiring your friends has not worked out all the time at all, and I actually don't recommend it. And sometimes you have to put things in writing. I think there's a lot of things that unfortunately sound really good. And then when you have to dive into it, nobody cares about your business as much as you. So I care about my business a lot, and if you're not performing, you got to have those talks, but they all have bought in. So everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid, which is just really cool. You know what I mean?
dang, that's amazing. Oh my God.
I know. It's been fun. And we got some pretty special things coming up. So maybe the follow-up podcast, we'll talk about it. So we're excited to launch some big stuff.
I'm excited to see what it is. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
So, another question. When you were making Buyer Beater, what was it intended to be? Was it intended to be just novations? Like, were you with novations, were you doing it yourself? Because I know that a bunch of people, they try to start off with like, okay, just their wholesale company, and then sometimes it kind of morphs into them actually buying their own properties. But then a lot of people, maybe they don't want to buy their own single family. They want to have a wholesale operation so that they can put it into their multifamily stuff. Like, how did you decide what you wanted to do?
Yeah. So Buyer Beater, our whole thing is, finding, easy, strategic, creative solutions for sellers in any situation, right? So Buyer Beater is a name to be able to know that sellers, could at least look at what we have to offer and this, tools in our tool belt to see if they're getting the best approach from what they're already getting offered, right?
Yeah.
I wanted it when I came in, and this is the thing about being a visionary. I'm like, we're gonna be bigger than Zillow, right? I'm like coming in here. I'm like, we're gonna come like. I want to be a household name because Buyer Beater, Zillow's for buyers. I wanted something for sellers where sellers can go on there, figure out a creative approach, come out, get an offer, yada, yada. But as you're doing that, the back end on that is wild, super expensive. It was just like, oh, let's start smaller, and let's start kind of going into it. And so I did a lot of private mentorships. People would pay me a bunch of money to be able to teach their brokerages or them like wholesaling, like avidly successful wholesale communities or fix and flippers, how to incorporate novations, the nuance behind the attorney and facts, the power of attorneys, the deeds of trust, like all the stuff. Because there's a lot of stuff that you have to do with novations because of like the longevity of the project and the legalities in each state. So as I'm like teaching while I'm building this up, I'm like, why don't I just like reverse engineer it? Like, because everybody who I was, paying me a bunch of money to learn, they still needed my help on the deals because it's so different. And then they don't have the time because they're running a full operation. So I'm like, why don't you just give them to us and we'll do it all for you, but then you can get attached to the equity so you can focus on your own business. And it was just like, yeah. So we just had a couple people doing that, and then it just started growing, and we're like, oh, we're just like a really complimentary, good service, company for people who have successful measures, who want to take their dead deals that don't work for their buy box and see if we can transform it to creative deals, and then just let us kind of take it. They just fire and forget. And that's kind of what we turned it into. And it's just been, great since.
That's amazing. So last-ish question, or not, maybe not. Anyways, so if I have a deal, let's say it's just a sub 2 deal, don't necessarily know if it's going to be a great novation. Would that be something that you guys would want to take a look at? Would that be something that you guys can help dispo for me? Do you have buyers or?
Absolutely. Sub 2, seller carry, creative, absolutely. So if you came that, we have our deal submission. You would just let us know what, you feel which model would end up working. We'll take a look at a couple. We have a 24-hour due diligence period for deals submitted. I have one of my verifiers come in, kind of identify numbers, and then we would email you back and we would say, hey, we think this, or it's not a good deal because of this, or maybe it is a good deal, but maybe we should get it lower, yada, yada. So that way you kind of have a blueprint. Or if you just say, hey, I just want help consulting on this deal or something, you'd submit the deal up, you would talk directly with our acquisitions. And that's kind of up to you. There's two things that we could do with our community. One is they're very hands-on, like you're knowledgeable. So if you just want us to take a look at it, we can. and then you want to continue to keep a relationship with the seller, but we just work the transaction, we could do that, right? Or if you go, hey, I only do this, but this opportunity was presented, I'm going to send it to you. You do it all, and then at the end, we'll see what we can do. If we wrap it, then I want a portion of what our fee would be if we wrap. You know what I mean? So it does. The splits are a bit different, but sub twos are phenomenal. We do a bunch of sub twos. My whole portfolio is actually sub twos.
Sub two.
Dude, sub two is great. Sub two is legit amazing. I'm looking at the Morby method as well. I actually just found out about that. Like, I don't know. Like, I know. Everybody was like, what? I'm in the community and everything, but I'm not as active as I should. And then somebody told me at Temecula what they were doing. I'm like, that is genius. What's that's called? And Pace was right there. He goes, Morby method, idiot. I'm like, what? I was like, oh, cool. And yeah, I'm really intrigued by that. But yeah, submit it over. I will say, we always look at, we have our hands in a couple cookie jars. Novations is mainly our play, right? So if you feel like you have a good novation, that's going to be what's going to be good. If it's an equity protection or an equity split deal, we will tell you. If you want to have something else outside of that novation play, then you're going to be dealing more so with myself and our creative department, and that's going to be more hands-on with you.
Okay. And last story I kind of want to go into to finish us off, because I feel like this is probably an interesting story. Speaking of you saying, a bunch of hands in the cookie jars, how did you become Ryan Pineda's kind of sole company when it comes to novations? How did that even work?
That was wild, right? Like when we broke into the space, when did I meet? I remember. Oh, I just went to the event, right? The very first one in Los Angeles. This is a newer partnership, and from there, I didn't know. Literally, sorry, Ryan and Brian, great friends now. I didn't know who they were. Like, I just knew this was like a wealth con. I came over. So Brian is such a great community involvement kind of guy, very big. I didn't know who he was, and he was doing a bunch of interviews. I'm like, hey man, what's your name? He's like, he was like Steve or something. I was like, Steve, yada yada. And he was like, no, dude, it's Brian Davila. And I'm like, cool, and so let's do it. Let's do an interview. And we started doing some interview stuff together. And I met his team, like Roham, who signed me up and everything. And then from there, after our first interview, it kind of, as I put it out there, a lot of my own people knew who they were. So they were like, oh my God, you should really interact with Brian more, yada, yada. And so as I started building a relationship with Brian a bit, I saw him at the other Wealth Con, said, hey man, we got a lot of insight from the other one. You should have known who you were. Let's do some business, yada, yada. And he just gave me a chance once. He was like, hey, where are you at again? And I said, Temecula. He put me on a group chat with somebody who's one of his friends for innovation in Temecula, right down the street. And I said, oh, easy. I'll have the team run it. Ended up running it. It took maybe 7 weeks. The person made 58 grand. And then Brian reached back out and he was like, I want to do more. And I'm like, yeah, it's like what we do. You know what I mean? He was like, well, I want you to teach Monty, which is their acquisitions manager. And at the time, I didn't have like a partnership, thought, right? I was like, okay. So I taught Monty. Now they just started blowing up with equity protection novations, which is just like net listing stuff. Monty was the one, he's the one who does the acquisitions for Home Run Offers, which is their main wholesaling company. Mm-hmm. And then from there, Monty and I became very friendly. And then I met the COO and everything. And it just kind of gradually turned into meeting Susie. And Susie was like, would you like go on the calls and like teach novations? I'm like, yeah, put me in the community and as a coach, like yada, yada, start funneling deals. So we worked like a partnership where if deals come in, we'd be able to work it on behalf of them. We're not going to charge the community members, all that fun stuff. And then the Zooms just started, blowing up. A lot of people liked the novation method because we fund the entire renovation. We're like, hey, we'll fund everything. So we got a community member that came in. We locked it up for 2.1, selling it for 2.7. We put 200K into it, right? So like we put a bunch of money. She loved it, told Ryan and Brian again. And they're like, we're just going to funnel you all of our equity splits. And that's kind of how it turned into like kind of getting known throughout the community because, more of like a lead by example. You know what I mean? More of like, hey, oh, they're performing, like, oh, let's just do it more. Cause they're very meticulous, they're very smart. So it's like, we want to see proof. We want to see action. And it just started turning into good friendship,
Wow. Oh my gosh. Connections. Like you were saying, building those relationships.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. It's what it is, and you never know who you're going to meet. And just being in the right room, you can make it the right room. You know what I mean?
I like that. You can make it the right room. I'm gonna quote that.
I made that up. I'm gonna trademark that.
Go. You ever seen the movie Why Him?
No.
It's kind of funny. It's like with what's his Bill, the guy that plays Breaking Bad.
Bill Cranston? Bryan Cranston?
Bryan Cranston. That's who it is. Yeah, it's like a movie about him and his daughter's dating some wacko, and not crazy wacko. He's like a billion or like a millionaire.
Oh, James Franco. I have seen that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, what did he say? He's like, well, that's life. And he's like, that's life. Did you just make that up? Amazing.
That is awesome. I love that.
That's so funny. Well, thank you so much for joining. I'm like, okay, it's 11. I want you to go home, go with your wife, your baby.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited to post this. This was so fun. Yay.
This was a good one. This was a great one. I look forward to it. Let me know when you post it. I'm going to put it in the community as well. I think that'd be great. And then let's do some deals together.
Yes. Okay. I know that we have, anyways, well, I'll talk about this offline, but post this one today. So appreciate you. Where can everybody find you or Buyer Beater? Tell the people.
Boom. So if you go to, first off, follow me on Instagram at Invest with Trev. Yeah, I do a bunch of free content always. I think Hermosi method, you just give. So if you have any questions, I will always answer them. And then if you're interested in joining the community, utilizing our money for these renovations or learning about innovations, that's at buyerbeateruniversity.com. And you come in there, you kind of learn about everything. You get on a strategy call with me and my team. We can kind of make sure it's a good fit. And then, yeah, it's $50 a month and you have access to a figure line of credit, all of our Zooms, the community. We're doing a giveaway right now, actually, where if you join within the next week on Wednesday, we're going to pick somebody that we're going to fly out to California. We're going to do a 2-day park hopper at Disney. And then we're going to take them on a full winery tour. And then we're going to have them stay at our Airbnb and walk 3 of our projects.
Oh my God.
That'll be, and they could bring somebody. So they could bring a significant other or a friend or something. So yeah, that's going to be pretty cool too. So a lot of people are coming in for the giveaway. Just so we can, keep the community strong. I think that's something Pace does really well. And I just want to make sure that everybody feels like they're getting value.
I love that. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yay.
Buyerbeateruniversity.com. Looking forward to it. Well, thank you again.
I appreciate it.
I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday, and I will talk to you soon.
Okie dokie. Talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you.